You're now watching us arrive at the multi-million-dollar, 110-acre Boulder, Colorado horse ranch of Jeff Wyckoff, founder and president of ZAP, the professional tile and grout restorer. It's understood that ZAP is the longest running direct response spot ever run. You know, folks, when I did my show called Keys to Success, I spent years interviewing the most successful entrepreneurs in America. From them, I learned two things. One, that I wanted to open my own business, and two, that the media had played a key role in their financial success. So I've spent the last 20 years making the media accessible and affordable to the small and medium-sized profit-oriented business to help them achieve their own American fame and fortune. That's what I did with my next guest, Jeff Wyckoff.
We then tried it again knowing that we had learned everything we needed to know the first time, and it failed. We happened to meet you at that point in time. We were down with our fulfillment company, and there's this guy, and what does he do? He works in connection with the direct response industry, helps people get involved, and teaches in the industry. From what I sat in your seminar, and we went to lunch that day. I actually ran out of breath before you ran out of steam. We talked to so many people. I had so many contracts coming across. I got a phone call one day sitting in Pasadena, California, sitting in my truck, doing my construction company, and it was one of the companies you had introduced me to, calling me on my cell phone saying, we've got two products that Value Vision. I need another product to go on Value Vision, so he had two, needed a third. So I said, fine, we made the inventory, we sent it out to Minnesota, and we presented ZAP for the first time to the public. And we sold out within 5 minutes. I came home all excited, and ZAP became ZAP, the professional porcelain fiberglass tile and grout restorer. And that was, the beginning of a $200 million run.
What would your life be like today if you had quit after those first disastrous tests?
I'd still be driving 10 to 15,000 miles a month in LA doing my construction business. Life changes tremendously when you have money. And I'll give you an example. One of our sister schools was about to go bankrupt. So I just wrote a check to save the school. My wife wanted this farm. I just wrote a check to buy the farm. My wife wanted a Lexus. I got a Lexus. People who need help, you can help. When you want to make a business decision, you want to buy a company, you can buy a company. Time changes. Your kids can go and do what they want to do. I haven't changed much as far as my values or anything else. It's just my ability to touch other people's lives has changed tremendously. I went on the air and we sold out the 5,000 units, and we then had a $50,000 a month cash flow in which to build the business. And in January of '97 we launched, and by the end of January we were doing $1 million a month on television very, very profitably. Only to go, how come I got so much money in the bank? We created another company and another brand called Restore 4, which was ZAP's knockoff.
I think I suggested that. Do you recall that?
No, but if you did, you can have credit for it.
Thank you.
So what we did is we went to QVC with Restore 4 and did the same shtick. We did about $83,000 net in airing dollars. So I took that money and made a long-form infomercial, which really put us over the top as far as financially, and we've never looked back since then. What was very interesting is in that process, ZAP finally launched into retail, and our first round was in Costco. And that we made our first $1 million in Costco. Give you progression. We did 300,000 our first year, we did 7 million, we did 15 million, we did 42 million, we did 63 million in 2001.
Wasn't ZAP one of the longest running direct response spots ever run, if not the longest running?
Yeah, it's truly an enigma in the industry. It's just like the Energizer Bunny that wouldn't die. You hit a huge peak, you'll hit like 300,000 or more. And in year 4, we hit $485,000 a week profitably in its 4th year. And we just kept tweaking it a little bit. We changed the offer, we changed the look of it. It never died, it never just ended. And it was continuously on the air for 5 years, never off for a day.
Products don't sell themselves. Isn't it more about the unique selling proposition?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's very, very simple, the analogy of a cleaner versus a restorer. I had a guy look at me saying, how the heck are you going to sell a tile cleaner for $20? The truth is you don't sell a tile cleaner for $20. You can sell a restorer for $20 because what's it cost to replace a bathtub? A couple $1,000 to rip it out and do all the plumbing and everything else. What's it cost to replace a shower? What's it cost to replace a sink? So our concept was to save the money from replacing. Actually, our trademark slogan was don't replace it, restore it. There's a concept, there's a niche.
I asked Jeff if he needed to quit his day job to accomplish all this.
No.
That's good advice, right? To not quit
I
your
not
day
only
job.
didn't quit my day job, we were doing $1 million a month before I finally gave my day job up. We were doing $1 million a month. I was still in my garage in Northridge, California. We had 2 garage offices before I finally stepped up to the plate and got an office. To this day, I'm still very conservative. We put most of the money away for a rainy day.
So how do you distinguish what are the right media companies for you? Because there's so many different ones. Because I think that's how we see ourselves, is to be a virtual trade show of looking at all the possibilities and boiling it down to the industry leaders and the key people.
I would agree with that, and I'd take it one step further. I mean, you introduced me to so-and-so, who introduced me to so-and-so, and finally I wound up, but it was all my original connections, if you take everything back down, comes to our luncheon meeting. Okay, before I met you, there was no one that I really had met. Even the person who I had met to meet my producer was someone you had introduced me to. That's how I finally wound up with the people I have now that I work with. But the greatest thing was the fact that I had access to the business. This is an industry that is so closed, is so tight-lipped, that no one wants, and if anybody's going to give you any information, they want a point or two of your product. I don't know when you're going to ask me this question, but I'm going to go to it right now. Many times you have had people call me to ask me about you and to ask me about my experience and should I go with them or shouldn't I go with them, you know, and how did it work for me. I don't sit here and tell them how great you are, because they already know that. They wouldn't be getting my name if I didn't think that of you. So I try to sit and explain to people that what you're not is you're not their hero. You're not going to take their product and say, you know, we'll get back to you when we've made $20 million for you. We're going to make the whole thing happen. You don't have to do anything. You never made me a promise that you couldn't fulfill on. And the promise that you made me was that you would make introductions for me. Okay? You got to come to this game with some common sense. And if you don't come with common sense, if you're coming in a neurotic way, if I need help and you know you just save me, it's not how it works, and it's not how life works. It's great to have a bellows. And you were my bellows. You stoked my fire as far as getting my company and my project off the ground. You introduced me to everybody, and without which the wind would have blown my fire out because time was just working against me. And the fact that you came into my life when you did was that bellows, that there was still a spark left, and I was able to blow that spark into a very big fire and burn the house down. The reality is I did. You know, all of a sudden your fax starts ringing and contracts come over. And then you go over the contracts and you look at those contracts and you call Mike and say, what do you think of this company? What do you think of that company? We've worked really well together for many, many years. And I will give a recommendation to you as to what you can do as one of the best, if not the best out there, if not the only person out there that will hold your hand when it's appropriate and kick you in the butt when you need it and tell you what's real and what's not real. You can't give up and you can't quit when you fail the first time. If you know you have something. But it's also a wonderful thing is if you hit a wall, instead of spending $300,000 to make yourself an infomercial to find out you were wrong, to go about it in a more conservative way, give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, I mean the cost that it takes to get involved with you is minimal compared to what you could lose if you just tried it on your own.
Is this analogy true, that a working commercial or infomercial is kind of like a sales robot? In life, we're all limited to how many hours we have in the day, but when you capture that perfect sales pitch and you put it up in the media and you go to sleep.
How would you like to make 35 grand a night in your sleep? Because that's what I was doing on a bad night. And on a good night, I was making a couple $100 grand a night. It's actually better than that because it's when you're awake going to the bathroom, it's still working. And when you're sleeping, it's still working. And when you're having lunch, it's still working. It's still out there. So it's not only at night, you're waking up. You really don't know how much you've made because it's still working. And we were selling 3,000 units on a Monday morning, which is crazy off television. And by the end of the day, the numbers were nuts. And on a good weekend day, we were doing 15,000 units on a Saturday. You know, like $20 a pop. I mean, doing $750,000 a week, there's not too many in history that have done those kind of numbers. Like Tybo exceeded that. I mean, Coral Calcium right now has exceeded that. But as a whole, to go to that level and stay there with the margin.
To do all of this, you've had a lot of great support at home, and I think that's real important. We had talked a little bit about that last night.
Right. You have to have that support. My wife has always looked at me. My wife's name is Mary, and Mary's always looked at me and said, whatever you want to do it. I know you'll land on your feet. So she's never ever stopped me from doing anything when it comes to risking it with money, because she knows that I will follow through to make it happen, whether it's a construction company or this. And without that, it's almost impossible. If your mate is constantly saying, no, don't, we've made enough, or don't do this, or don't do that, my wife is not risk averse at all. She believes in me, and that's a wonderful thing to have to support you.
Marketing costs money, that's just, I don't know of any other way to do it but with money. What we try to do is get the cost down to the bare bones minimum, but not less than is ideal for the product launch within the industry to do the networking. Do you agree that you do have to make some investment in order to market a product?
The reality is, it's, again, sense. It's one of those things that when you sit down and look at what you do, you're a fool to try it alone. This is an industry that will eat you up and spit you out no matter how tough you are, and I'm a pretty tough guy when it comes to business. It was eating me up, and the reality is I was about to quit till I met you. I'm the example of tried it before I met you, and I failed twice before I met you. There's a lot to know about the industry. We learned it. It's not that difficult. Most of it's common sense, but not a lot of people have common sense. But if you have a handful of common sense, or a pound of it at least, you can probably do well in this industry.